can you see this person's perspective,
Right.
but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
We're not going to stay in a victim mindset. We're going to be in an all new mindset. How are you, Teri Pugh?
I'm good. I realized I popped up like a jack in the box. I was kissing a dog's nose.
Well, as you should.
I was going, oh, li, and I was just like, oh, hello.
We is here. We is here
right now.
Well, kissing a dog's nose is a perfect thing to do. Elizabeth already joins us. This is our little weekly gathering and interactive. This is interactive. So you guys are just cluing in whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. We just ask you to join us, follow, subscribe, and share. And interact, because your comments below become part of our show.
Absolutely.
I made that rhyme.
You did. You're so good.
You know, sometimes I just tickle myself. I may be just a little loopy at this point. I'm getting ready to go see Mama.
I know that. I'm excited for you.
I am too.
I'm excited for her and for Faith. I'm excited for everybody because I know that this is a well-planned, well-needed, and going to be a love-filled visit.
It is. It really, really is. And thanks for all the kind words everybody's been sharing about Mama Pat. And you, Teri, left a really, really sweet message. Really, really sweet message. And then Elizabeth says, so glad you get to go see Mama Pat. It will be good for all of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know how God is going to provide for all the things that you get. But, you know, little friends gave me some stuff to use for me. And guess what? I didn't know what I was going to use it for because I don't know how do I do that. Guess what? So Elizabeth, you and the girls, y'all all know. So thank you. It's people, you know, when things change and there's a new normal,
mm-hmm.
You know, you just kind of have to get used to it. That's what today's show, it really got me thinking about embracing the uncomfortable of new.
Hmm.
And I think about, I've had several friends lately that have called me just in a place of, and I've been in this place, so I really recognize it. They've been in a toxic situation for so long, and it hurts so much, but they're so familiar. There's something so familiar about it. I'm used to that. But when they get into the peace part, it's like, well, I'm just going to go back. It's like, I'm just, because I said that to you.
Mm-hmm.
I said those very words to you. And I'm just being out here as transparent as I can be. And Teri walked me through really one of the most difficult situations of my life. And it was so hard to extricate life and pull out and start. And I wanted peace more than anything. But in the midst of it, it was so difficult and it felt so weird that I thought, well, maybe I should just give up and go back.
Yeah. Well, that new beginnings and fresh starts and turning the pages and all of those things in theory sound warm and fuzzy and light and delicious. But the reality to that is that there are a lot of emotional tentacles wrapped up in all of the what was, what could have been, what should have been, what wasn't supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And it's detangling those tentacles that create an opportunity for that new. But it has to be cultivated. You know, I see a lot of people that will say, well, you know, out with the old, in with the new. And I'm like, good luck with that. I mean, internally, I'm like, okay. I'm not saying you have to sit and wallow, but I am saying that change, shifting, pivoting in life is challenging. And
Mhm.
you have to be willing to feel that transition.
Mhm.
If you don't feel that transition, then if you don't feel that ground crumbling beneath your feet while you're finding your footing, then we're not really gaining anything from that experience, if that makes sense. You know,
Right.
and saying, well, the old was so familiar, I'll go back. But the old is still that. It hasn't changed. So if
Right.
you barter away for a few moments of I'll go back, um, you're going back to what wasn't working to begin with. You
Mhm.
know, and if you're going back because you genuinely want to try to shift things, if you can play a part in shifting and you're going back to shift, great. Go back and shift the hell out of it. Allow it to work. But if you're going back and you've done everything you can do, and that other person or job or employee or whatever
Mhm.
it is isn't willing to shift, I, you know, I would say keep that forward motion.
You just about have to. You
Yeah.
just yeah, you just about have to. There's a place, and I always say when you create the vacuum in your life, when you take the toxic out, that leaves this big black sucking hole to fill with things. And you can fill it with good things. And I'm going to tell you, the familiarity of good does not exist if you come out of a bad situation.
Mm.
That big black hole will have a tendency to suck in something else just like you just came out of. There will be that first thing to, I'm going to fill my life with blah, blah, blah. And somebody familiar will come into you. I will tell you, it will happen. So be prepared. If you're making a transition into a different life, someone can walk in that mimics or that feeling of excitement. I have a friend that lovingly refers to it. We are circus people, so we draw to us other circus people. Sometimes you want to get off the trapeze. You don't want to be swinging back and forth, high, low, with the dangerous drop below. Sometimes you just want peace, but that peace comes at a price. You don't have those ups and downs and that constant adrenaline drive.
Right. And if your brain is has become patterned cyclically to that, you're going to you're going to want to drive yourself, or you're going to want to return to that so that you
Mhm.
have that.
There's a book that I read years ago, and I've mentioned it before, called The Agony of It All. And it's the addiction to trauma, the addiction to drama, the addiction to I must create this feeling inside me. That's as filling as a drug addiction or a substance addiction, because that feeling, that dopamine hit, that adrenaline thing that hits you like a ton of bricks, you get used to that. You get used
Right.
to that. And so the uncomfortable of new might be a quiet house,
Hmm.
might be the ability to make a choice on dinner. Something as simple as I can choose to have for dinner what I would like to have for dinner.
It may mean taking a promotion that you have been fearful of, you know, writing a song that you've been afraid of, getting on a stage that you've been afraid of. Um, you know, it can mean so many different things. Um, and it's about leaning into that new, because you're absolutely right. The dopamine that hits, it's a dopamine push, you know, and it's a feel good.
Mhm.
So when people say, I'm never going to do that again, I'm never, what they don't understand is that energy follows thought. And so if we're saying, I'm never going to do this again, it's not that we're not going to attract that same type of situation. But what it is that if your energy is on the fact of, you know, um, I don't want this in my life, then you're going to attract that in your life because you're focusing on it.
Mm-hmm.
Energy follows thought.
Mm-hmm.
So we're focusing on it.
It happens when we drive. I mean, if we're a little bit over the speed limit and we see a police car and we start slowing down and go, oh, don't give me a ticket. Don't give me a ticket. He's not going to see me. He's not going to see me. Oh, yeah, he's going to see. He's going to follow you and turn on the blue lights. It attracts it. It's like a weird little trick. Elizabeth says it's the new good feeling. We have to pay attention to our gut. Our gut knows if it's another toxic situation. We just have to listen for it. My gut will lie to me, though.
Well, and that there's the difference between gut and intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our gut stores all of our energetic imprints from our life. So anything good or bad, however we want to label it, the gut holds that. When people are nervous because they're afraid they're in trouble or they've done something and they're going to get in trouble, what part of the body typically shows up first? Upset stomach, digestive, problems digesting. That is your gut. So when things are popping off in your life and you're having a hard time digesting what's happening around you, a lot of times people will find out that they have IBS or they have all kinds of intestinal issues where now they can't leave the house before they poop, or they don't want to leave the house because they're afraid they're going to poop, or they, and it's just, it goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And it's because their gut is responding. It is a physiological response to an emotional and mental weight. So a lot of times when we say, I get my, I trust my gut on that. Our gut can lie to us when we're using it as our intuition, meaning, should I take that promotion? Well, if you have felt like in the past you've been slighted in promotions and you've had these experiences that have left imprints of this was not the best thing for me, then when you start talking about taking a promotion,
mm-hmm.
what happens is your gut starts to respond. Oh no, remember the last time we took that promotion? That's not your intuition. Intuition doesn't fire off with heavy or light or anything. Intuition is that thing where you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you go home a certain way. And then one day you're like, I'm going to go this way today. And you just go that way. That's just that little message, that signal of like, I'm going to do it this way. And there's not a high or a low to that. It's just a knowing. It's that place where you don't know what you know, but you know it, and you don't even know how you know it.
That's
so settled with it. It's just like, yeah. Like Elizabeth shared with us, and I'm just because she had shared this multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
She knew when she was relocating to Tennessee that Tennessee is where she wanted to be. It wasn't because of any grand thing she was coming to. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Elizabeth, but it was just that knowing of that's where I'm supposed to be. And she didn't question it. She just came.
She said, oh, I love that. I never thought about the difference before. Going to change my language. It's my intuition I should pay attention to. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, I just knew it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's not like you know it. And it's like, yippee, I know this. It's just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. People that are in relationships, no matter how good it is, no matter how bad it is, sometimes a season comes, no matter how much you might have wanted it and wanted it and wanted it. At some point, your intuition might go, it's time.
Yeah.
And you just go, okay. Doesn't mean it's not sad, or it doesn't mean you're not relieved or whatever. It just means it's time. And you don't have to be reactive. There's the reactive mind, and taming that reactive mind is what allows that lack of fear to come in.
Man, there's so much in that. And why is it when we get into a situation that's really good, it is so good, whether it's a new job, a new home, a new city, uh, in that new place, and we feel really good about it. Why all of a sudden do we throw a monkey wrench in and sabotage it because it is not what we are used to?
Because most people live with the proverbial, the other shoe is going to drop. And so most people, even though they want that fill in the blank, when they acquire that fill in the blank, there's something in there that says, well, now I've got it, so it's probably going to go away. So I better blow it up before it leaves or before I lose it. And people do that
All the time.
All the time. It can be on something as simple as, well, not that people who are making healthy choices to do, diets and things are simple, because they're not simple for some people. But something as easy as, I'm going to eat healthy. And then they start losing weight. And then I have an acquaintance that I've known for years. Well, I haven't been in touch with them in some time, but I knew them when I worked at a travel agency, and we stayed in touch for years. And this person decided that they were going to do gastric bypass surgery when that was the thing, right? And so they were going to do this gastric bypass surgery because they wanted to be smaller. Well, they did the surgery and they became small because their belly became small because they did the surgery. But in that being small, they then did not realize that now everyone saw them differently. They didn't see themselves differently, but everyone else saw them differently. And so in order to not have to take the, in their words, painful affirmation that they looked good,
Wow.
they blew it up and they started eating cyclically and emotionally again. And within 2 years, 3 years of the surgery, they were back to where they were prior to the surgery. That's a very dangerous thing to do too when you're doing gastric bypass. But it was that they weren't ready. Externally they were ready, right? Because we want things. We're an instant gratification kind of world. We want it now.
Man,
but
that is powerful.
Then when we get it, sometimes we're not really ready for it, and we blow it up. And
Elizabeth says it was scary, and yet it just felt so very right to me. Once I made the decision to move to Nashville, I never really looked back.
Right.
That's a real gift. Not looking back is a gift. I always think about that, Sodom and Gomorrah, and the looking back, and turning into a pillar of salt. And I always thought there was way more to that story than just disobeying God and looking back and turning into salt. I think that was as much metaphor as it was anything else.
And metaphorically, and I think you and I might have talked about this before, metaphorically, the looking back and looking back and looking back in those days, things were preserved with salt. So when you're looking back while you're moving forward, you're literally bringing your past, that pain, all of that. It doesn't mean don't look back and just pretend like it never happened. Mm-hmm. Reconcile it. Take your part in it. Be accountable in it. Be transparent about it. And then when you look back, you're not bringing all of that into your future, because if you're looking back while you're walking forward, you're going to drag all of that history, and you're going to repeat the same patterns. You're going to repeat the same cycles. You're going to attract the same kind of people. Now, in the beginning, people will say, I'm not going to do that because this was crazy. I don't ever want to do this again. But if those people aren't addressing what's going on inside their heart and mind space, I guarantee you they're going to repeat it. I've repeated it in my life before, before.
This is being human. I mean, we do it. We'll go right back to the same poison well and drink. I don't mean go back to the same situation, but the new situation, if you go into a new situation that's exactly like the last one, 9 times out of 10, I mean, I've heard it over and over. When I have done the when I've gone to YouTube University about narcissist recovery, you hear the story over and over. The first time it was bad. The second time it was worse than that. But then the third time they went and they attracted the same type of person, it was the very worst kind of toxicity they had ever experienced. It can get worse the more you get into it. And that's the thing that I go, when you feel that uncomfortable new, when you feel peace for the first time, when the house is empty and you don't know how to handle that, you've got to fill up those vacuums with nourishing things. You have to make a conscious effort to set your schedule and to reach out to people who nourish you. And the first two might say, no, I'm not available. It's not because they don't like you or whatever. And I'm just speaking from experience here. It's just that people's lives didn't work with my schedule sometimes.
Mhm.
So I had to understand. And then I found the nourishing people in my life. And after a while, good starts feeling familiar. And what a nice place that is to be. But don't give up before good feels familiar.
Yeah, and I think it's good to say, or valid to say that there's a visual that's out there on social media, and I don't recall what the I don't recall. I need to silence my. There we go. There's a visual out there where there's a glass of water and they put mud in it, and then they pour clear water in it, and it's pretty murky and it's pretty funky.
Yeah.
But if you keep putting the clear water in it, and you keep putting the clear water in it, and you keep putting clear water in it, it's going to spill out, and eventually you're going to have clearer water in your murky, muddy cup. And if people think of that as their body, their mind, their soul, when they are going through life and it feels like you're just wading through the muck, start putting clear, clean, nourishing, purified, fun, joy, light, laughter, put that stuff in. And the darkness, the weightedness will eventually, clear out. We get so stuck sometimes because a lot of times you're in a job, or you're in a relationship, or you're in your own emotional or invisible shackles from your own life situations and circumstances, where you tell yourself this is as good as it gets. And then you're willing to contort yourself into a million different pretzel shapes. Is this the right way I need to be? Maybe it's this way I need to be. Maybe it's this way I need to be. Maybe you're not supposed to be there. Maybe you're just not supposed to be there.
Amen.
And sometimes that is hard. It's hard. It's challenging. It's scary. Fear comes up. I tell people all the time, when the magnet, Miley Cyrus has got the song Came In Like a Wrecking Ball. If grief was a wrecking ball and it comes in your life and it swoops across all of your life, what it's going to do is it's going to pick up all of that unresolved grief, all of those issues, those people, those places, those experiences, those you did me wrong, all of that. And then before you know it, one grief that you're processing, how to overcome, get through, navigate, blueprint, whatever the words are you want to use, this particular loss now has been infiltrated and accosted by all of the other griefs that you've ever had that are not processed yet.
Right.
And that makes your current situation incredibly tricky to process, because you don't know where the pain's coming from. That's why people can be in abusive relationships or in jobs where their bosses are not very kind, or not that your boss has to be kind, but they also don't have to be a butthead, so and we will allow ourselves to contort and to stay. And at some point you have to go, I gotta start teasing out this pain and figure out, because if I'm looking at it for what it is and not what I want it to be, I'm kind of okay with it going the way it's going, And that means that if we're okay with something going the way that it's going, there's going to be a new chapter, a new leaf, a new page, a new something.
Mm-hmm.
And new can be scary. Think about it all through. We've been conditioned to be afraid of the new.
Oh,
when
yeah.
When we were young and, on going to school, we were afraid to go to school. When you go to swimming pool for the first time, you're afraid of that. When you're jumping off the diving board, most people are afraid of that. When you're learning to drive, we're afraid of that. We're not afraid of that because we innately are just afraid. We're typically afraid of it because someone who has trained us, modeled to us, or showed us is afraid.
Yeah.
Therefore, life is hard. Money doesn't grow on trees. New beginnings are painful. That's another person's belief. It does not have to be yours.
Or if you're raised with Mama Pat, I knew someone that died doing that. I mean, it was always, we went right to it, and I laugh about that. No matter what I say I'm about to do. Hey, Mom, I'm going to try this new fingernail polish. Well, somebody else got that polish and they smelled it and something that is a chemical in it. They died. Where'd you hear that? Well, they said. I go, who is they? Well, I don't know. I heard it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was always and so everything, then I come back from getting my nails done and say, well, Mom, I like to die.
Right. I nearly died.
But, and we are overcome with fear, and we're overcome with the idea of this is different. And, I had to let go of so much trauma and so much of, I was so used to the walking on eggshells, that finally not having to do that, it took some getting used to. But here's my thing. First of all, don't keep watching the same television and you're watching during your trauma. Look for something new, something different. Try some new places. Maybe it's some place that you have never been allowed, whether it's time or effort or just by a person or your time commitments. Try some new places. Try some new places to eat. Don't go to your same old haunts. That's like looking back and turning into salt. I mean, literally find something new. Maybe take a class doing something new. Maybe try a different group of people, a new church, a new group. If you have a fellowship that you go to, try something new that takes you out of the mindset of where you used to be. I mean, literally shake your Etch-a-Sketch.
Yes. I tell people all the time when I'm working with them and they're like, well, I don't have this in my life anymore. And now I just don't know what to do with this. And it's like, well, what about there's the things called the meetups. A lot of people have heard of them, like the meetup.com. It's not a dating app. It's a place where people can get together and go kayaking, or they can go to the movies, or they can do bar crawls if that's their things, or they can do game night, or they can do dog park, or they can do coffee, or desserts, or it's where like-minded people get together and build community and connectivity. And a lot of times when we find ourselves, whether if it's a job that you're trying to switch jobs, then they've got things on there about networking and, new jobs. They've got things on there for the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and they've got it all. And it's a great outlet. And if you don't see something that you like on there, here's the beautiful thing. You can actually start your own group. Several years ago, I had a meetup grief support group. And so I did that, and there's no charge for the things that you do for joining one of the groups. And so I had at my office a meetup grief support group, and we met, I think it was every third Thursday. And they could either meet virtually or they could meet in that group. And so it was actually really nice. And it's a way, it's a support group of sorts, but it's also a way just to connect with people. and some of those folks that came to those groups are now really good friends. And, I did a belly dancing one time, a belly dancing meetup group one time, learned to belly dance, loved it. Loved it, and if they ever run another one, I'll do one. I'm not well versed enough to facilitate my own, but I'm gonna tell you what, if they do another one, your girl's gonna be there.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Be there.
Well, this is just kind of an interesting thing. And so if you guys are trying something new and it feels a little shaky at first, nobody is good the first day at the first time they try something. But as you keep doing it, it starts feeling better, and good can be your new familiar.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing to remember. If you're doing something, you don't have to be the only person that's wagering on whether or not you're doing something good is probably your own inner critic. Because, I have people all the time that'll say, well, I've never done an Instagram live, or I've never done a Facebook live, or I've never done a whatever, this, or I've never spoken here, or I've never done this. And I'm like, well, just remember this. The people that you're talking to don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't tell them, if you don't announce to the world, hey, judge me because I haven't done this before, then there's a good chance that people aren't going to have any idea.
Elizabeth closes with, good can become familiar. I find that good is also peaceful and contented. Hi, Marilyn. Thanks for reminding me it's time for new. Oh, Marilyn, what a precious, precious soul you are. I love you. And well, I'm glad everybody joined us today. A lot of people were watching. And not as many people commenting as normal, but it doesn't mean that you guys aren't there and that we don't see that you're there. So thank you very much. And if you watch this in the replay, just put your comments there because we pay attention to them after the show. Mm-hmm. And we love for you guys to let us know what you're going through. DevonO'Day@gmail.com for any future ideas that you have for the show. So maybe you're going through something. We'll keep it anonymous. Today's was anonymous. And so people, send me little notes or most of y'all got my cell phone number. Just text me and say, hey, would y'all talk about this?
Right.
Come on, let's be real.
That's right.
All right. We're here every week on Wednesdays. I'm going to be gone next week. So we have an encore already put in the queue. And Teri, I'm going to turn it all over to you.
All righty. Well, I just want to say again, I love our little pumpkins that you have on the border here. It feels so festive and so fall, and I love that. I actually drank coffee this morning out of my Happy Fall Y'all mug, even though it's like 90 degrees here in Nashville. I'm getting in the mindset. I'm getting there.
Me too.
Yeah.
I am too.
It's a new season, right?
It's a new season.
And I love fall. Fall is my jam. So, but that said, as always, we appreciate each and every one of you choosing to spend your time and your energy with us and sharing with us, because you are what makes this possible. Otherwise, it would just be the two of us broads sitting here talking to each other, and we can do that without FaceTime. We could talk hours on the phone without FaceTime. So we appreciate you so much. And please continue to be good to yourself, nourish your soul, create time and space to prioritize you. And if praying is your thing, send prayers. If good energy is your thing, send good energy to Miss Pat, because we want Mama Pat to feel good, and we want to see her walking like a walker again. And so
hashtag walk like a walker.
That's right. Hashtag. And so send good love to Mama Pat and to Devon and to Faith and, the whole family. And that was just my 2 cents I threw in there because I love you and your family. And I just want everybody to be good energy to you guys on your journey.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I guess we won't see you live next week, but I'm sure at the end of that live next week, I say increase the peace. So I'll say it again today. Just continue to increase your peace, and we will see you week after next, live and in person.
That's right.
All right.